Hey, welcome to the Drawing Room Experts. This is Zaib back with an episode that I'm trying to record. Trying this whole office recording thing out as much as possible because I think kind of time nikalna bahut, you know it's becoming a little bit more challenging for me. But not that I won't be doing it. The only reason why I do it at home is because I have the whole system ready and the mic and everything. But hopefully this is kind of like a pod here. So hopefully the recording, the audio quality isn't really bad. I thought the last episode's audio quality was okay, maybe not the best, but I just wanted to get that episode out as well, like this one. And this is, trust me, this is going to be an unpopular one. And the unpopular one, again, it's not unpopular because I'm going to say something really shitty here or really something out of this world, but the bar is so low these days about having an opinion, that any rationalization is now looked at from the lens of being controversial. And this is what it is. This one is a rationalization, effort to rationalize Babar Azam and Pakistan cricket team, uh, and perhaps by extension their performances. But I'm not going to go and analyze anything like that in classic details. But I want to essentially talk about Babar Azam and you know just to put this opinion out in the stratosphere, which includes opinions like that Babar Azam fixed matches. Based. This is coming from a guy, by the way, so rich. It's coming from a guy called Mubashir Luqman. He's a television personality and a TV anchor, political shows. First of all, what the fuck do political TV hosts have on cricket now? Like, why do they have to fucking have be staying? Why do they have to stay relevant all the time and have to have an opinion and have to have a show about cricket whenever there's a World Cup going on or an India Pakistan game going on? And then on top of that, they come with such shitty opinions that, um, I mean, that forces me to say that he's probably the worst of the lot. But that lot is shitty in Pakistan in terms of journalists and sports journalism specifically as well. But this guy's not even a sports journalist. But he came up with this absurd opinion that Babar Azam, the Pakistan team, lost because Babar Azam fixed matches. And here's the guy. This is why it's rich. Here's the guy who was actually supporting um, Salman Butt, Amir, and Asif during the spot fixing fiasco, and he actually did a show um, on TV trying to prove that how this was like a sazish, some mysterious plan that was created by MI6 or whatever, to malign Pakistani cricketers, and and you know, um, therefore that whole spot fixing thing happened. And obviously we know now that the main uh, the main culprits have since then agreed and accepted their responsibility. So it was all fake and bullshit. But here he is still trying to masquerade um, as an analyst in um, on Pakistani airwaves. But anyway, the reason why I wanted to do this was rationalize number one, and then also put this opinion out, sort of hopefully try to balance the bullshit out of the room. But um, but because I follow other sports, because I look at cricket from the lens of um, how other sports are being run and how other sports are analyzed and how other teams do and how they overcome challenges. I think I did an episode about Liverpool a while back, which basically said that trust the process. If you have a process in place, and if you really thought about it and you put the process after extensive research and extensive think tanking in, then trust it. Trust it. Don't second doubt yourself. Don't think that now, for whatever reason, the whole A process should be thrown out the window. Um, and because I follow Liverpool and I follow Premier League and football in general a lot more closely, and I try and draw parallels and see how that can be applied into other sports like cricket, for example. So that got me thinking, and the initial premise of this particular episode that I wanted to do was talk about generational talents and how generational talents are utilized by sports teams, and what the biggest shortcoming and shortfall is. And initially, this was going to be like a comparison of how Babar Azam has been utilized and how Trent Alexander-Arnold is utilized as part of the Liverpool team and now the England team with the Euros going on. So it's kind of relevant in both ends. But this was the initial premise of this episode, which I never got to record. But here we are. But now with all the crap that has been going on ever since the exit from the World Cup and bullshit that I just mentioned this episode and the last episode as well, I think it's important to link that with this. So. Babar Azam, I mean, can we be honest and call a spade and agree at the very least that he is a generational talent for Pakistan cricket? I don't want to go into the whole debate about like strike rate and winning matches and bullshit. Don't go there yet. No, we'll talk about it if we can. But is he the best batting talent that has come out of Pakistan, at least in recent years? I mean, I know people will talk about Inzamam and say them. They were great. They were great. But there's a huge but. Uh, they weren't regarded as generational talents. I mean, you can argue that certain players came in and kind of replaced them. The middle order of Pakistan never really struggled. You have always had Javed Miandad, Inzamam, Yunus Khan, Yusuf, Misbah, Asas Shafiq recently, Azhar Ali as well. So you've had these talents, and now Babar Azam also considered like from a test perspective a middle order. But um, you can't say that Babar Azam and Inzamam are alike because Inzamam was also a generational talent. I think he 100% talented, but by generational talent, I mean someone that is unique, someone that is, that can rub against the best of this generation. Did Inzamam rub against the best of that generation? Arguable. It's arguable that he did, or maybe perhaps he didn't as much as he should. Mohammad Yusuf, you can argue that he did, but again, did he do it as much as he should? Um, Yunus Khan, I mean, I don't know, test player, not a white ball player at all. But in terms of well-roundedness, Babar Azam, technically sound, has everything, every shot in the book, and is someone who I can regard as a generational talent. And I know this might be a controversial opinion. I mean, I can't believe this is a controversial opinion now, because it's not. And especially when people, even detractors now, they're initially comparing it with Virat Kohli. And Virat Kohli is no doubt a generational talent for India. But Babar Azam, in terms of numbers, can rub shoulders against them, can go toe to toe with the best of the best, can go toe to toe with Kane Williamson, can go toe to toe with Joe Root, uh, Virat, Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith. Obviously he's not beating them, but the fact that he can be in those conversations is a huge testament to what I'm trying to say here, is that, i.e., that he is a generational talent. And what happens is that we try and put too much of an onus on the generational talent. Harsha Bogle, a very, very respected cricket analyst, commentator, I think when commentating on when Misbah was in the middle of Pakistan, the worst times, and everybody was failing against him. He always used to come. It was a joke at the time that he used to come into bat when it was a 10 for 3, three gone, and very miser scoreline, and here he is. He had to like took his way out of it, which was needed at the time. And Harsha in one of the very interesting takes on this, and he said that Misbah is like the breadwinner of the house, a big household where no one works, and he still gets the shit. He still gets shit for not working hard enough or not bringing enough money. Motherfucker, why aren't the rest of you working? So this was the gist of his argument. And that's what I think we do with generational talents. India did the same with Sachin, I think, in the 90s, where he was like going all guns blazing. As a player, he was all over the place. Like he was everywhere. So big. And then they put him, they gave him the captaincy. And it didn't work out. They recovered really fast from that stupid decision. But there is this tendency, and that the reason why they recovered because they had other stars to rely on then. But when he was the sole star of that team, um, you know, it all gravitated around him. And the same thing I think Virat Kohli also went through when he was the star in that team, uh, especially post Dhoni. Um, they put too much power to him. They gave him too much power. They gave him too much responsibility. And as a captain, one might argue that he failed, didn't do much. But that has always been the case. You know, this is the argument that I want to put here, is that generational talents cannot be treated like that. How Trent Alexander-Arnold comes into this conversation is almost like a mirror, picture that I see um, when I look at how Trent is being treated or being played. He is by far the best passing right back of this English generation, maybe around the world as well. He's so good. He is really, really good. But there's a stark difference as to how Jurgen Klopp utilized him at Liverpool. He saw his talent. He saw that, okay, this is what he's really good at. So I'm not going to keep pushing defense and defending down his throat. I'm not going to keep saying that, oh, you better learn how to defend first and then you can do all the fancy stuff. He said, well, I can either teach him um, something that he will be maybe above average at, or maybe B plus, even A, or I can lean on something that he's already exceptional at and see if I can utilize that for the betterment of the team. And that's how Liverpool became, really good with the flanks, with the inverted fullbacks, with Andy Robertson on the other side, Trent Alexander-Arnold on this side, pulling in assist after assist, creating the record for the most assists by a defender in the Premier League. And, Trent's just like 23, 24, 25 maybe. Um, and that is the model I look at. That is how I look at it. In stark comparison, how he's treated at England is exactly how Pakistan, in some aspect, or India in certain aspects, treated Babar Azam and Virat Kohli, respectively, where they said, "Oh, you know what? You gotta be this high to ride this roller coaster," and they put undue pressure on the generational talent and not really take advantage of what they're actually good at and try to build the team around that. So I think Misbah Haq, when he was coach, tried to do something, and I'm rationalizing it. Maybe he didn't even mean it this way, but I think that looking back at it kind of makes sense, right? When he said, okay, who's your best batsman right now? Babar Azam. Who's the second best? Rizwan. Okay, let them open. Let them go first. Because we don't have, a Kohli, or we don't have a Pandya, or we don't have um, a Finch maybe, or a Butler who can, go hard, but then also perhaps, if needed, play well in the middle. mean, I think Hashim Amla towards the tail end of his career in the T20 still used to do a very, really good job at that. Playing the middle overs for during a T20. And um, so going back to what Misbah did was that, okay, I'm going to fill the team with hitters. Have my main batters play until the 10, 12, 13 over, and then set a very, very decent platform, and then have the likes of Asif, likes of Fakhr, the likes of Shadab, or Shoaib Malik at the time as well, Hafiz for a limited period of time, come in and smash it all over the place and set up a very good total or chase. And that for the most part worked because we had two World Cup, two major finals to show for. One which included a World Cup final, one World Cup semi-final, which we're very unlucky to lose to Australia. Surprise, surprise. And it was a game of margins in both instances, and we lost to the teams that eventually ended up winning the whole thing. Um, so it kind of worked. I mean, people were still whining and bitching about it at the time because they wanted 140, 160 strike rates, but we don't have the fucking players. And you've learned now, at least, I hope, that PSL के strike rates की basis पे उठा के आप जब international cricket पे लेके आते हो, Ala, Azam Khan, um, it doesn't work. It doesn't necessarily work. And then you start to say, oh, you know what, Fakhr Zaman, I love the guy. I love him as a player. But, he's not the hitter that people treat him as. His international strike rate is maybe 120, 130, maybe 140 touching. Not good enough for someone who can hit the ball as cleanly as he can. And then at the domestic circuits, it's even less than that. In PSL, it's probably higher. But again, PSL, as I just said or established, that doesn't mean shit now. With Heather Ali, Mohammad Haris, Saim Ayub now, Azam Khan now, Usman Khan as well. All of these players came through the ranks from PSL, and do I need to say more? So the secret sauce, what I feel now with Babar Azam or generational talents, giving these examples, is to build a team around them. Um, Thinking of other examples where they've done that, when they build the team around the strengths of that player because they know he's better than, or they're better than everybody else. So they cater to that. They face they build their strategies and tactics to cater to that one person or two people, whatever it is, so that their team can benefit the most out of them. And I mean, trust me. I mean, are people really serious when they say that they're going to kick Babar Azam out of the team? By all means, who do you have coming in? Who's the next generational talent? And you can throw in some random fucking names, but I'm sorry. I mean, you're just throwing names for the sake of it. You have no clue what you're talking about. Again, like I think I've done a fairly decent job in the last episode to show you and prove to you. Not prove, I guess, but at least argue for the fact that Pakistani cricket experts and fans have no clue and no shit what they're talking about. They're just talking through their asses for the most part, 85-90% of the time. And so, are we going to rely on the same people who talk out of their asses and say, okay, replace this and bring this guy? No, fuck off. No, of course not. At least not me. I'm not going to take that into, not going to even consider that for a second. But using Trent Alexander-Arnold's example, and then trying to see if that can apply to Babar Azam. I think the way Misbah did was a good strategy. I think that could have been doubled down on. And when you try and try to make some player do something that they're not really good at, Babar Azam is never going to be a Joss Butler. That's not his foray. Okay, does he need to do that to be in the T20 side? No. Kane Williamson was doing it. was not doesn't do that, but he still isn't that side. He just retired recently, uh, and everybody eats, you know, from his hand now. Uh, Kane Williamson, I feel like, does not get the shit that maybe perhaps at times he should, right? Because he's lost lost major big games. He's lost finals, which he could have, should have probably won. Um, Babar Azam loses two finals, and he doesn't know how to captain. Now, segueing into Babar Azam, I think specifically, I'm kind of like trying to rationalize the criticism that's going his way and how it's being utilized. But we really need to have an honest conversation about Babar Azam. With that being said, I feel like I have some sort of credibility now to say what I'm going to say, because I'm not going to come through the ranks and through the cages, fisting, throwing a fist. Sorry about that. Throwing a fist at Babar Azam, because I've rationalized how um, how he should be is being used. I think I can say what I'm going to say now. And again, like the last episode, I don't have any proof for this. Maybe I do, but I just don't know how to articulate it. But I think Babar Azam has stagnated for the past couple of years, at least. And by stagnate, I don't mean that I'm not just talking about his numbers. I'm not just talking about I think his abilities. I think he's stagnated. I think he thinks he's too good of a player now. I don't see him making the sacrifices that Virat Kohli makes. I don't see him making the sacrifices that some of the top players in the world make. And I still feel he can. I feel like he feels that he can wing it. Um, I'm not saying that he's not preparing. I'm not saying he's not training. I'm not saying that he's not doing the required nutritious, you know, stuff that is needed for a modern day cricketer. But I feel like he's not doing enough for a generational talent. Trent Alexander Arnold had a sucky season, if that's a word, a couple of years ago for Liverpool. He was crap. He was absolute. He was shit. And people, including myself, thought that okay, maybe this is it. That's the bubble burst. This is a great player. Now the success has gotten to his head. He's got like locks now, and he's doing like fashion deals, and he's in the process of acquiring or investing in an F1 team. Um, so there he goes, another English talent wasted. Until last year, where he really, cut off his hair, started to focus on football again, really put his head down, and showed me that he can be the best. And he is now. I mean, just yesterday's game that England drew, he created the most chances. He's playing in a position where most people think that he can or shouldn't. I think he can and should, but um, but that is something that I want to see from Babar now. I think some of the decisions as a captain that he's made in this World Cup, the last World Cup, I was just like, I was shocked, and I still, when he was first made captain, I was not thrilled. I was not really. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it at all. Although we did decently under his captaincy, but I don't think he's a captain. I don't think he's a captain material. Another thing where he hasn't really invested his time on. Again, people say that isn't needed, is not needed. Bring in Messi as an example. Blah blah bullshit. Bro, learn how to speak. And I'm not criticizing you from a perspective कि यार अगर आपने ये नहीं किया तो आपकी कोई greatness में कमी आ जाएगी. But come on, yeah. If you're going to be a captain, just spend a little bit of more time. Like, just show me that you're making an effort to adjust to this role. You can be in the background, whatever, but it kind of work. It doesn't. If it works for Messi, doesn't mean it works for you. If you want to be my Messi, then don't fucking talk in English at all. Like, just keep talking in Urdu. But you can't obviously do that. You can't now in this day and age. So I don't know. I don't know. Genuinely don't know. Um, if he has invested time in learning the trade of captaincy, the the how you present yourself, and all of that stuff. On top of that, he's already which you know what he's already good at. So I think the stagnation, the staleness in his performance and his attitude kind of like has disappointed me in the past couple of years. I'll be the first to admit. Um, but it needs to be rationalized. I don't think he's being utilized the way he should. I don't think it's difficult to utilize him the way that he should. But unfortunately, we have jokers and uh, dimwits and fucktards and part of the administration of cricket these days. So what else can you expect from them? Yeah, I think that's it. That's all I wanted to say on the phenomenon that is Babar Azam, on the way generational talents should be treated and utilized by using and showing real life examples that exist, you know, and then also admitting some shortcomings in the player. And I still feel like there's unhealthy importance given to strike rates. I know what it means. I know how important they are, but it's not that important. I mean, England players, Australian players are not hitting 250 plus, 200 plus every fucking game. They're not. They can score however the fuck they want, in however much they want in the power plays. But correct me if I'm wrong here. Both of these teams don't really push 180, 190 on a consistent basis. They don't. So what's the point? What's the whole fucking argument? Like 160, 180 strike rates, and what? It doesn't really get you anywhere if you're not scoring. Overall, if your team's not scoring 200 plus runs, it doesn't mean anything. If you're still scoring, 10, 15 runs more than the guy who's hitting at about 140, 130, what's the big hoo ha? And then not every team needs to score fucking at 160. If your strategy is to rely on your bowlers to restrict the other team, which I feel like has been, and it's not the worst policy in the world. Do are our players really um, doing enough to do that role well? That's another thing. But it's not the worst policy to have. Worst plan to have that or I'm going to score 160, 170, 180, and then have Haris Rauf, Shaheen Afridi, Naseem Shah, Mohammad Amir now, Imad Wasim, Shadab Khan, Iftikhar. These people restrict, contain, dismiss the other team. On paper, that's not the worst plan in the world. So if that's the plan, and the plan isn't like, we don't need to score fucking 200 all the time. Let's just make sure we get a decent score and bowl them out. What the fuck is wrong with that plan? Our whole team in the 90s kind of like went by the plan of scoring 250 runs at least and having Wasim Bakar and Shoaib bowl the other team out. That was the plan. They didn't fucking have to score like 300 plus every time. Um, Even India, for example, don't need to score, and they don't think of scoring fucking um, um, 200 plus runs every fucking game. Despite the fact that IPL kind of like pushes that narrative and argument, but that doesn't happen in real world. So what the fuck is the whole fuss about having 160 strike rates? What does that get you? There is little to no evidence that exist. And I did some research a couple of years ago. I don't know how true it is now because numbers change, and times have changed and whatnot. But a few years ago, I did a research and I was looking at some numbers and I compared how Pakistan is doing against some of the other nations in terms of scoring 170 plus runs. When I did that research, it didn't really come out to be like a massive gap between Pakistan and other nations. It was just like other teams are scoring at about 9. Pakistan was scoring at about 8. So 1 run difference. I know in T20 those are the margins, and there's a huge margin. A score around 60 versus 180 is a difference, and I agree with that. But so was New Zealand at about the same average run rate for over 3 years or whatever that was. Um, but I don't hear anyone shitting on them. I don't hear anybody shitting on Kane Williamson being the player that he's not the player. He's not. He still fucking gets named the big four on just test performances, just one format. He's not cross format. You know, maybe he does something sometimes here and there for ODIs, but again, you know, what is the fucking fuss? I keep repeating this. But anyway, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Instagram, and you know the whole lot. We're on all audio platforms, and yeah, I don't know if I'll get to record another one before I go back, but if I do, I'll record it. If I don't, then I'll see you when I see you. Thanks. Bye.